By roll call, Mary Miskovich,
Yeah. Yes.
she is here, okay. Paul,
Present.
Mark,
Here.
you, Jack,
Yo.
Mary Ann.
Here.
I heard you way back there. Deb,
Here.
I'm here. Josh Morse will not be here this evening. He had to cover another meeting. Dan,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Amy,
Yes, here, present.
Stephanie,
Here.
and Linda Holt.
Yes.
Thank you. And is Krista Silva here? I didn't see him dial in yet.
Hmm.
Okay. So with that, let me read the standard entry statement, then we'll get started. And if I start to cough, I'll mute my mic for a minute. I've just gotten over COVID and I have allergies, so they combined, and it's not been a good combination. So, good evening. This open meeting of the Senior Center Committee is being conducted in person and via Zoom. Speakers on the agenda may be participating remotely, and the chair may allow public to provide comments after the agenda is completed. If a member of the public wishes to speak, please raise your hand in the meeting room or on your computer, and when called upon, please state your name for the meeting minutes. The Senior Center Committee would welcome public comments, and if there is further action that is required by the committee, the clerk will add the matter as appropriate to the forthcoming agenda. Depending upon the comment, the committee may, if they are able to, within the confines of the open meeting law, respond with information as opposed to needing to deliberate on the matter. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast or individuals attendees unless otherwise required by law. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, so please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. The end. Quickly looking, let me clear my screen here. Quickly looking at the agenda. First item on the agenda is minutes of our previous meeting. The minutes of our previous meeting were posted, and I also sent out a copy with draft written across them. I think maybe yesterday afternoon, around supper time last night. I hope that everybody has had an opportunity to take a look at them.
Yep.
Are there any burning issues that need to be corrected aside from maybe a minor little whatever that doesn't matter a lot? Paul, you get your hand up.
Yes, sir. There's just one in number 3 under real estate. The
Yes.
second sentence, it says several select board members, and then there's a word missing. Probably should be urged or something like that.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Oh,
That's it.
it's amazing how when we read something, we kind of know what we're reading, and
Yeah. Yeah.
a word could be missing and we don't notice it. Thank
Yep.
you. Good pickup, Paul. Thank you.
All right.
Any other editorial comments that are required before we vote for approval?
Terry, do you want that word to be urged
It's pretty strong.
Let's see.
or recommended?
Suggested.
Yeah, suggested would be better,
Okay.
less strong.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to do via roll call. Vote on, well, actually, I have to take a motion. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Would somebody make a motion to accept these meeting minutes from August 15th as edited? Could somebody make that motion?
Motion.
So moved. Perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect, thank you. Via roll call, Mary,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jack,
Good.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Dan,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes. You should abstain.
okay, Stephanie,
I have to abstain as well.
okay. Okay, that's right, Dan has to abstain, okay. Got it, those are all the voting members. So it passes.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda. And again, after I get going, Jack may end up doing a fair amount of the talking this evening, and I may mute my microphone just so I don't disturb everybody with my coughing. So the next item on the agenda, number 3, working group reports. The real estate working group has had, I think, 2 meetings, separate Zoom meetings since our last full committee meeting. And the intent of that was to put together a presentation, to boil down, you've all seen, in last meeting we had, we spent 1 hour and 40 minutes, a long meeting. But we talked in detail about the 44-page document that Josh had put together, and several others had contributed to it and edited it. We had a great meeting, a lot of great information. We then, after that, had to try to boil that down to something more presentable. Not that that won't be used, but we can't present that per se. So we try to get this down to several slides, I would say. And Jack McKean took a stab at it, did a great job, did a couple of iterations. Several other people on the working group had their comments and some excellent input. We now have a document that we, at least as of yesterday afternoon, feel relatively comfortable with. It's 8 slides, could be cut down by 1, could be added by 1, but 8 to 9 slides. And this will be used, what we'd like to be able to do is to be on the agenda of the select board on October 1st. So it'll be their last regular meeting ahead of the October town meeting. We want to make sure that the select board is fully aware in detail of what we have done and what our basic recommendations are and where we are in the process. Because there's some things we can move forward with, and in some portions of this, we're stuck. We need some help. And we need to get that message across to the select board. So I'd like to take the time tonight to run through that 8-slide presentation. We can talk to each bullet point on it. And because what we'd like to do is get the input of everybody on this committee so that we know when we move this forward, it's the committee in full that's moving it forward. It's not 2 or 3 people or 5 people. It's the full committee. Assuming everybody will agree with it and vote in affirmative action. So with no further ado, Jack, do you mind if Dan puts up the slides? Can you talk to them and I'll interject and others can as we move along? All right, Dan, can you put the slides on? Thank you.
Host is disabled phone Karen.
I'm not the host, so I don't know.
Did you log in this town?
Yep, but it said I had to join.
Jerry,
Yes.
one of the other things that we talked about in the working group is whether the full committee wants to go forward October 1st or wait until after town meeting.
Yes.
That's a point you're taking the policy before.
Okay, valid point. Thanks for reminding me, Jack. I completely forgot. We did talk about that. So I would say let's walk through the presentation. Let's comment and edit and do whatever we think is necessary. And then at the tail end of it, let's see how the committee feels as far as moving it to present to the select board October 1st or sometime after the town meeting. Either way. But either way, whatever time we present this, we still have to have this presentation ready. So let's review the presentation and then discuss if we think it should be done October 1st or some date after the October town meeting. So Jack, can you see the slides okay from your vantage point there?
And the second point that again, working group discussed. It was redundant here in the sense that Josh had put together and what we just referred to, the 40+ page plus appendix appendices. Report, which is clearly going to be more than select board going source. So one of the discussion we have been having is reduce that to something that's crisp, can get through a select board kind of discussion so that they have the information they need before town meeting, or if we choose after town meeting. But we discussed in the working group, and came to a conclusion we intended to, as we go to town meeting, not leave the senior center, but the town goes to town meeting. It will have been a year since the focus group brought the citizens petition at that town meeting, which was October of last year, voted overwhelmingly on an advisory basis to support funding in senior center. So the other question that I'd like people to keep in mind as we go through this set of slides, is there a handout or something that we would like to take to town meeting, so that town meeting attendees will in fact some sense of progress that has been made, given that it's now been a year. So that I'd like to have people keep in back as well. So we'll very quickly go through these slides. There are some of them.
Hey, Jack, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to move closer to the, whatever they call that microphone thing, or move it closer to you?
You can sit up there.
On Zoom, some of what you're saying is broken up, that's all.
You can sit over there and then look at that screen. And you be close to the microphone.
Otherwise, folks can't hear me.
He said you're breaking up.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Jim. Yeah. Is he breaking up with the rest of you? Yes, Paul says yes.
Yes, it's a little low on the volume.
Yeah, there's a microphone right there where you're gonna be sitting. Those are, oh.
At the outset.
Testing.
Oh, perfect, Jack, perfect.
Okay, we're gonna get this on this screen.
Yes.
Okey dokey.
Can you make it bigger? Make it bigger?
Oh.
Cause that's kind of squished.
Yeah.
Please. If not, Jack, I'll give you my draft. It's big. He's got better glasses.
I don't think I can make it any bigger.
Small.
Tech support is working at the moment.
If you see the slideshow button at the top, yeah, right next to the board on the left of the board. Click slideshow.
I'm working without my glasses, so
Okay, so far left, there's
come over here.
far left top, there's a box that has a little green, yep. You push that box there, it'll start, then it should.
Okay.
Then if you click the mouse, it should move.
Bingo.
procedures.
We're good.
Great tech support.
Junior test.
Okay, the comment I was making, some of these slides probably still need some tweaking. As we go through sort of the slides bullet point by bullet point, the purpose of the first slide was to try and set a tone, for lack of a better word. And I'm gonna walk people through it, read it, so just bear with me. We've been seeking a permanent senior center for more than 4 decades. We have the backup, which is 46 years. The current center too small, remote, inaccessible, and deteriorating. 4 facts there. The remote is it's way up in a corner of town. Inaccessible represents the hill, trying to get up to it. Deteriorating, and keep in mind that as a select board discussion, they're going to know a lot of this stuff. I mean, the select board's well aware of the condition of the building. The greater than 98% of more than 750 attendees. This is the year ago reference. It's a reminder to the select board and to anybody else we want to show it to, that we had massive support at the town meeting last year. Senior Center Committee was formed. We should probably capitalize Senior Center Committee. December 19th, right after that, and that's deliberate in the sense of October, fall 2023 town meeting, December follow on to form the committee. General comment here that defining parameters, securing a location, arranging financing for a permanent facility typically takes 7 to 12 years, and that's the information that Josh Morris has provided. There is a slide that actually gives 5 examples that we might want to include as an appendix to this. So we've made that comment to the select board. It's been, I think, accepted, but for other folks who might see it, giving those examples would be a useful thing to do. Leasing for an appropriate interim space is the lowest cost option as opposed to capital outlays and so forth and so on. The last 2 could probably be put together, but there's really 2 points I'm trying to make with those slides. Municipal process requires identified funding prior to lessor solicitation or engagement. And I'll say to this group, one of the things that we'll get to in a later slide is we've kind of done our work. We're at a point where we need the select board to make a decision, provide us guidance, whatever, or provide the town administrator guidance. And the point that's being made here, we have the RFI things, which I'll get to in a second. But without a funding source, the municipality, whether it's the Senior Center Committee, Greg Johnson's office, or whatever, we can't continue to engage. We can't get the information that we need to come up with the actual numbers we need to put in a financial article. The second thing, which is number 8 up there, something that we want to remind the select board about as well, that the funding timing is subject to the municipal budget and town meeting cycles. That's going to complicate things, because even if there was a funding commitment, the select board said, hey, sure, we're behind you. The process basically says, well, next May, which is 9 months away, and how many lessors are going to go, oh, sure, we'll wait. So we're really trying to begin to get a message focused, and this first slide is the introduction to it. Whoever's in charge of slides, next slide. This one could probably use some tweaking. Because what we're trying to, it's more setting us up for the discussion kinds of things, but the RFI response and build out conversion costs, which you will see in a minute, may not be justifiable versus 5 to 7 year lease periods. And specifically, it'll show up a little bit later. What's the attitude of the select board of the town relative toward 10-year leases? And I'll come back to that one in a second. The interim report recommendation, which is the big package that Josh has put together, we've contributed to, assume a leasable space can be found. If you go into that package and look at the recommendations, which are again later in here, the recommendations say, put up some money for a leasable space. But if there is no leasable space, third bullet, do we really have the ability to go to town meeting and ask for money? Another way, which is the kind of second line there, what I say, except perhaps a pure funding article to begin building a reserve in the COA budget line called bucket for some future opportunity or operating costs. And I bring up again the with a lesser holder space for 10 months. So the bolded piece here is really the issue. If we don't have an identified funding source, there is no ability to issue an RFP or negotiation. When I talk about tweaking the slides, this is in effect repeating what was said on the previous slide. Here's the issue, the next to last bullet. All of my personal interactions with select board members individually seem to indicate there's a deep focus, and I expect it to come up in a presentation or discussion with them that says, we understand all your problems, you have some information, which we will get to in a second about leasing information. But what the town wants to know, and it's legitimate, what are the transition costs? What are the increased operating costs for any space proposal, on the basis there will always be larger spaces? We don't have specifics, we have generalities. COA, Amy is on, she has basically said they can go forward with she and Pat, at least initially. But my concern is, I think the select board is going to want to push for a little bit more. And we need to address that. There is a way to address it, which is, Amy has said consistently that with the larger space, we could aim at doubling or tripling usage. We can make estimates of whatever year that might be, and then perhaps couple that when we get to stage X, then in fact, there might need to be more personnel or something like that. But that's a point that the select board, I think, is going to push at, because they have in sort of every interaction that I've been a part of relative to this. The last bullet, again, it's a reminder of previous slide. The current facility is deteriorating, and it is not the highest priority in the capital planning buckets. They recognize it. It's $1.8 million to fix the roof and the quote unquote envelope. But we run the risk, as we discussed in our last full meeting, of the potential of accidents or injuries or whatever there. But that becomes a part of the conversation that says, either we find a new space or can we fix the existing space, neither of which has funding. So, and I'm going through this fairly quickly, but if you have opinions and comments, speak up. Now, I don't know whether the select board, I don't know whether Greg has shared the RFI responses with the select board members. Steph, do you know? Okay, so what we're gonna go through here in 2 or 3 slides. This is the RFI. Remember, an RFI is request for information. It's not a request for proposal. It's not binding on either party. It's just, do you have something? And we did have the 2 responses, one from Maynard Crossing. There's a photo. There's the data on it, and the comment at the bottom is a comment we put together that basically says, new construction, raw space, estimated build out cost $120 to $150 a square foot. That's design, that's construction, that's furnishings to some degree, and we would have some furnishings, but there's gonna have to be additional new furnishings and so forth. And frankly, it's a swag, because we can't go back and have the conversation to get details because we don't have a funding source. So the conclusion, build out costs would be high versus lease period. And that's going to be a consistent statement. I'll now speak as a taxpayer. I'd get a little uncomfortable saying, hey, let's spend. If that was 6,000 square feet, you're looking at. 7,500 to 750,000 to $900,000. Spend by the town, which we would walk away from in pick a number, 5 or 7 years. But we do have a set of information. Next slide. Mill and Main from the new owners, they have basically offered the main medical center building. You see the figures there, and you have the same kind of comments. Second floor is not handicap accessible. ADA compliance would require a significant investment. First floor, multiple small offices require removal, reconfiguration. Again, you would need architectural services, engineering services, and so forth and so on. Same comment, build out conversion costs would be high versus a fairly short-term lease period. The working, just so the bigger group understands, the working group had a conversation about, well, could we go back and just talk about the first floor, which would be, half 3,700 square feet? Because then you do have a handicap ramp, you would have to deal with an elevator, but we have no ability to go back and engage in those negotiations because there is no funding source. Have you sensed a theme here? So again, we don't have hard figures, but same feeling that says, looks like it'll be really expensive. So at this point is when we were sort of including the comment that said, we don't really have a viable option to bring to the select board or to the voters in terms of requesting funding. Then we got another opportunity. Next slide. Now, 141 Parker Street. This was not a response to an RFI. It was a response to an inquiry where one of us asked the landlords there, gee, is there any space in that building? The response we got from the landlord was, no, the building is now fully occupied. But, gee, this looks like an opportunity for us to engage with you folks vis-a-vis the derelict one-story house that's a part of that property. And it's literally on that property. I had thought it was separate, but it's literally on the 141 Parker. So a couple of us went over. They handed us the drawing, which you see there, and presented us with 2 options. They basically said, we'll tear down the White House, build you a 5,000 square foot temporary senior center, and it can be pretty much tuned to what you would like. We'll, kind of fit in what you need. We can rearrange the parking lot. We can put a place for the van to come in close, handicap spaces and so forth and so on. And what you see there, the blue is the footprint of the existing house. The orangey color is what a 5,000 square foot space would look like. The comment in a second. The one at the back of the property, I don't know if you can visualize the property. It's the former Digital Credit Union Bank headquarters. And on the back end, which is the orange thing they show you there, there are still 2 drive-through banking lanes, which have 2nd and 3rd floors above them. And what they basically said is another option is enclose and reconfigure that space, plus give you a piece of the existing building. So in effect, they've said, we have an opportunity for another 5,000 square foot space there. So they basically have given us 2 options. They also were quite clear, and again, not a negotiation, just a conversation, that if you want us, the landlord, to build a building, then we're going to need to talk to you at least a 10-year lease. So one of the questions we will have as part of a conversation with the select board, what's the town's attitude about 10-year leases? My feeling is towns really don't like to lease at all. But we certainly have gotten support of the select board for an RFI on 5 to 7 year leases. The finance committee has said leasing is your kind of way to go here. This one brings up the specifics of 10 years. So testing the select board on 10-year kinds of things. Is it negotiable? Could you do 7 years plus 3 one-year options? But again, we cannot negotiate. We don't have a funding source. But the point with this slide is, if the first 2 options responses to the RFI are sort of non-starters because we feel the cost would be high, we don't have least costs for this yet. We might by October 1st. But at least we have a way forward. I have made Amy aware of this option. Amy was very positive about it. It's something she had looked at or thought about in the past. The parking, there's significant parking. In this picture, it's to the left of the back orange square. We come right up against the back of the front one, so it's level. So there's parking, handicap, so forth. So it fits a lot of the bills that we look at, needs, level, parking, yada, yada, yada. And again, I make the point of funding without the policing engaged. This is out of the work that Josh put together. And basically what we're trying to convey to everybody, select board included, we really do need to address the short-term space needs. Fund establishment of an adequate and appropriate temporary space. Fund the feasibility study, and you notice everything we've spoken to so far, it doesn't address the feasibility study. That's separately identified. And this is the one. The stuff in yellow is bolded and highlighted and all that for purposes of our discussion here as the senior center committee. Because what the working group discussed basically is bringing to the full committee, how aggressive do we want to be in pushing at the select board? Hey, folks, in effect, we have done pretty much what you asked us to do. We've done a lot of work. We've examined options. We've talked to people. We've visited a bunch of other senior centers. We can show you the data for that. We're sort of at a point, and I'm not trying to be provocative, but maybe I am a little bit. We see 2 options at this point. Select board, you need to direct the town administrator to increase funding for the COA line item within the current budget cycle. And I say that because Greg, since he's been here, has been very consistent. I will do what the select board tells me to do. And he has been very consistent about that. So what I'm testing with the senior center committee is, how aggressive do we want to be? The other option is, yeah, okay, if the select board doesn't want to give that as a direction, and they may have very good reasons, then an override at the Springtown meeting. We would still need select board permission to get that on the ballot. And the select board needs to vote to put the ballot together after you have, assuming an override at a town meeting. So we're kind of at a point, and this is not exactly the summary slide, but very close to it, that says, folks, we have done our homework. We're here. We need you to provide guidance, direction, or whatever. Next slide. Now, this another slide which needs some tweaking. This was from the stuff that Josh put together. It is redundant in some ways, but it's the slide in which we begin to put specifics in place. It starts off, it's a recommendation of the senior center committee that the select board vote to place a warrant article on the spring town meeting agenda. This is the override thing. It doesn't yet incorporate the comment I put on the previous one that says, give the town administrator direction to put it within the current budget cycle. So this slide, if we want to, depending which way we want to go as senior center committee, would need to be tweaked. And then we have the specifics. 250,000 operating or general override. Again, that doesn't pick up the give direction to the town administrator. By the way, if the select board gave direction to the town administrator, you're basically then handing the town administrator the challenge of, okay, where do I find it? What doesn't get done because I have been told by the select board to put X dollars into the COA line item? We can't control that discussion, but we're kind of shifting things in the sense of provide direction. And that's why the yellow highlighted thing, which I put in there, the yellow stuff is my addition to what Josh's language. Which way do we want to go here? Override first? Or do we want to go with direct the TA to increase the COA line item? And the thing that we really haven't touched on in any of what we have said so far in this draft presentation is the feasibility study. This is proposed here as a separate thing, as a debt exclusion override, and it does need to be separate. I don't think you can really mix. There's the lease and the transition costs and the feasibility thing need to be separate. I think we have an opportunity to ask for earmarks. I don't know the timing of that. If you go back to the minutes of the last select board meeting, not the one last night, but the previous one, I noticed in the minutes in his report to the select board, Chris mentioned the fact, I think it was Chris, well, Kate Hogan has already earmarked $50,000 for the senior center. And Chris said, well, can we use that for leasing or something else? So that's now kind of floating around there. There's also the 17.5 left over from the 35,000, which got cut in half. I don't know where that sits either, but there's a potential of existing $67,500 that's already there. I think there's a potential to either go back to Kate, personal comment now, not a senior center comment, go back to Kate or go to Jamie and talk about feasibility kinds of things. I bring that up because I think the select board is going to go, is there another way to get feasibility money? I think there is. So I think that would be a legitimate kind of pushback, but failing that, then another override or something like that. Go ahead, next slide. This one is intended as a backup slide because the select board several times has come back to, well, what have you really looked at? And we've tried in shrinking this presentation. You notice we didn't put in the vision, we didn't put in the report of the visits to other senior centers. There's a whole bunch of stuff we left out. But we can have this and perhaps other backup slides that basically say, hey, folks, this is the backup slide to leasing being the least cost option. We've looked at regionalization, we've looked at repair, we've looked at reuse, we've looked at et cetera, et cetera. So we can throw that in as backup. The other one I might suggest as backup that's not in this presentation is to add the slide which was in the bigger presentation, which was permanent senior centers take a very long time. And there was a listing of 5 towns that sort of averaged 12 to 14 years of getting a permanent senior center. That could just be a standalone slide that's plugged in here as another backup slide. So what I've been through here, there's 7 slides, I think, that represent the presentation. We can walk through them again, make comments. Jerry, what do you want to do with that?
You're muted, Jerry.
I gotta get my fingers to work correctly. Excellent, Jack. Thank you very, very much. That was yet again a great job presenting that material. First, I'd like to say, are there any questions or any comments or any thoughts from anybody on the committee who's in this meeting right now? And then I think that, yeah, maybe we want to just, again, I don't want to belabor the point, but we gotta get it right. Go back over these slides again quickly and just kind of highlight each little piece and see if somebody wants to come up with a comment then. But are there any comments right now from anything that Jack has said or that you've seen physically in this presentation? I don't see any hands up.
I had a question for Amy and a couple of comments.
Yep, go for it, Linda.
So Amy, what we understood is that we had an earmark in the state, this current state budget of 50,000 for Council on Aging.
Yes.
And then we also get, is that in addition to like around the 42,000 we get, like $15 per senior or $14
Yeah,
per
so-
senior?
Yeah, let me just help
So we
define
have
that.
92K.
No, let me just run through what that is. So every year there's a formula grant that's
Yep.
given all towns and cities based on federal census count number. It's currently $15. I think it's going to be $15 per senior. That's a formula grant. That's a supplement
Yeah.
towns and cities general fund budget. So that's been budgeted and used over the years for programming at the Council on Aging.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. So that's not money that's just pulled out and put into leasing a site. The $50,000 that Rep. Hogan, the earmark was designated, I believe, for programming. There was something specific in the earmark, the definition of those, the use of those funds, and Greg Johnson was going to be working with her office to determine exactly what the intent was.
So we might be able to use that, or
Well, we
we
don't
might be able
know.
to draw on that, like for programming, if for fit out or buying equipment or furnishing.
Exactly. That was my hope.
Okay,
That would be my hope for that
Okay.
money.
for
would
the
be
50K.
For the 50K, I see that sort of as the nest egg, or if we go into a leasing space, we have this cash to go and
Okay.
purchase furniture
Okay.
and to outfit the internal space.
Okay,
Now,
and does that money disappear at the end of the fiscal year, or we?
I
it's-
do not believe that's money that's given back.
Okay, so that's in
Yes.
a nest egg, okay.
And then this, just go back to the 17.5. So when you know that when the budget, I think 2 cycles ago, that's that 35,000
Yep.
that came out of, that was put aside. So half of that has paid for half of the UMass study.
Yeah,
And then the other half is still sitting in an account, in a town account. So there is 17.5 sitting there that's unused, which is not designated for anything. Because the Friends of Maynard seniors then are paying for the other half of the study when the study is complete. So that 17.5 is sitting there. It's not designated. Yep. That makes
so that's
sense.
possible, because what I thought was, my comment is on number 6, where we say leasing is the lowest cost, because when we get into the numbers, it doesn't seem like low cost. I think we should do lowest cost with best. Because it's our best, it's really our best and only option in the short term. And then I think, Jack, we have great data there, but I would say I would be more positive on leasing, because we got 2 responses to the RFI, plus when we push, we got another one, and who knows what else we'll find. And it looks like we have on the Mill and Main, the rent is $25, the allowance is $35. So for 5,000 square foot, that's around 125. On the Mill and Main, it's 1825. For 7,400 square foot, it comes to be 135. So we should ask the town we should have a slide to say, we think we need about 150 for leasing costs. And then the fit up costs at Maynard Crossing is going to be very high. It's probably going to be 500,000. At Mill and Main, maybe less. So we're going to need somewheres, but with the allowance, it looks like we're going to need around 300,000 for fit out with the fit out minus the allowances that they're giving us, around 300,000. But if Amy says we have 67.5, we're looking at about 225. And I know we talked about this the other night. I just think to the select board, we should give them some summary numbers. Here's our best guess right now. We're looking for about 150 for leasing. We maybe go up to 200 for extra operating costs. for maybe some extra staffing with the more space. And then come up with some summary slide. We're gonna need about, I forget what it came to, but some number like minus 67.5 that we have in the bank for fit out costs. And I don't know, I know we talked about last night, we have a lot of capital improvement funds. I don't know if we can take it out of general stabilization, but ask either, say to the select board, we need operating money, we need some capital money. Either do it, direct Greg to do it out of your budget or otherwise. So those are my two comments. I just think we need to give them some ballpark figure of our best guess of what we're looking at. But this is great. This is great.
I have a question for Amy. Amy, the per capita of monies that the COA gets every year, $15, whatever it is that intent to use, is there a restriction on that in that it's perhaps supposed to be used for programming, or basically can you use it for whatever you want?
I think it depends, it varies. I think, every council on aging uses it differently, Jack. So some councils on aging take their whole formula grant, and that's for a staff position. Some use it for programming, office supplies. It supplements the limited general fund budgets. So in our case, in town of Maynard, the formula grant has been used for programming and the newsletter and subscriptions, and so there's certain things that it's been budgeted for, the same things for the last 10 years. It's just part of the overall budget. So if you're thinking about siphoning off $20,000 of that formula grant, then we're talking about cutting current programming, cutting the news, frequency of the newsletter, or cutting fitness classes, things like that. I just want to be clear. Yeah.
And that's why I brought it up. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
It's technically not restricted, but we need to understand that if we try to siphon that money off, as you
Yeah,
said,
it's
things aren't going
budgeted.
to-
That's what helps things survive, because we've all looked at the measly amount, I shouldn't say measly, the limited amount that we have. You've all seen that in terms of the expense line in the general fund budget. And the reason we're able to do what we do is because the formula grant supplements the general fund budget, the programming, the expenses for the Council on Aging.
Yeah, what I'm specifically suggesting is that any discussion we have about taking funds that are in the COA line item, so forth, we should limit our discussion to the 50 plus the
Yeah.
70.
Yeah, and I think it does need to be teased out, and I think Greg Johnson would be working with Kate Hogan's office, about exactly what the intent of that earmark, that 50,000 would be.
Yeah.
But my sense, the language was around programming, which is an expense when we expand into a new space. We expand programs and to fit out the internal space so that we can support the programs. I think that's a little gift, unexpected gift.
Stephanie?
Perfect
Marion
timing.
Bassett isn't on, but do we know anything about the Friends and what their coffers look like?
Yes, oh, I'm on, yeah.
Oh,
I'm here, Linda.
sorry, I didn't see you, Marianne.
That's okay. We have about $25,000.
Yeah,
That could be, that's there.
yeah.
I can't specifically say that we would use it for something like this because it would have to be voted on by the Friends.
Yep, but so it's not gonna cover 300,000, but it could,
No,
yeah,
we are not Sudbury.
yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
I have a comment. This is Deb.
Go ahead,
Um,
Deb.
Jack was asking, how do we approach the select board? Do we kind of step back or do we try to be aggressive? And I really think after 46 years of trying to get a center that's, you know, appropriate for seniors, that we really need to give them all the information that we have that's available for them, but also see what the seniors have to not deal with, but how they approach getting to where they're going, being in a building that has water coming down in the ceilings, being in a building that in the bathrooms is not handicap accessible. Things of that nature. And I think personally, as a private citizen, I'm tired of being in the back. It seems like every time there's any money that needs to be used, it's used in a different place. And I understand our infrastructure is very important, but our seniors are what built this town. The seniors are the ones that paid for the schools, paid for the library, paid for the police department, paid for the new fire department, and 3 schools. And I think it's time that the town recognize that, not just in words, but shows that they agree with that and help us find a way to do this. So
So
that's
Deb, is perfect. I love how you summarized it. So I guess if I were to look at it, I would say you would suggest we be very informative, which I believe we
Yes.
are, and also, at least if I interpret what I think you said, also be very aggressive. We've been at this for 46 years, and we're not getting too far.
we haven't gotten anywhere
Right.
after all the work that we've been doing all these years, not just this committee, but all the committees before this committee.
Right. Yeah, I don't mean just us. We're the last entity that is working this issue, but the many entities before us.
Correct.
I agree. I agree that I think we need to take a well-informed presentation so that they should be able to limit their questions. We should have at least presented it all or have backup to answer their questions, but be aggressive. And it's not like we're coming with a handout and saying, gee, we'd like you to help. No, you have to help. The seniors have helped build everything else in this town. It's now time for the town to replenish the emotional and physical coffers of the seniors. They've done their part. Now it's the time for the rest of the town to do their part and support those who help build the town. That's a message I think we have to get across. And very strongly, my opinion. Let's see. Oh, good. I wasn't on mute all that time. Phew. I couldn't say, I couldn't say that again. Whew, boy, that scared me. Any other questions? Go ahead.
All I can say though is that, you know, we acknowledge the reality that without a clear and committed funding source, our hands are tied. So we've explored all the options that we can. We've been looking for grants. We've been looking at people who might make a donation that would help us, benefactors. And there's nothing else we can do. And, you know, we need to have the town understand the potential of how this is going to affect the seniors in this town. I mean, there's only so many times that we keep saying, we're gonna get a new place, or we're gonna get a place bigger, or that you don't have to not go to because it's snowing out, or that there's too much ice on the stairs, or you can't get there, or it's closed because for whatever reason. And I think before the winter comes, we need to make that well known again, because it's just gonna be the same thing over and over again this winter.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah,
Sorry.
I couldn't agree more. So it's at least my view of what we just listened to and saw this evening. These slides, I think we need to now just go back and tweak them a bit, clean them up, neaten them up a little bit, make some of the small adjustments that Jack had mentioned. And I think get these slides back out to the full committee. And our next, so I'm gonna in a couple of minutes ask for a motion uh, to move this process forward, but I just wanted to think out loud for a second. When is our next meeting? Today is what, the 5th? Next one's the 19th.
Yes,
What's the opinion of everybody here now? If we were to clean these slides up and represent on the 19th and vote on the 19th, that's the final, that's it? We're gonna present on October 1st. Does that sound like a plan, or do we need to move that plan ahead more quickly? And when I say move it more quickly, some things we do, and I don't know that we can do it on a town committee like this. Can we vote via email? I mean, if we
No.
tweak these,
no,
no? Okay, good. That's it. I didn't think so, but
In the interest of speed, would it make sense for this committee to authorize the real estate working group to finalize the deck and move forward?
well,
We
and to
don't
a
have-
point,
we
yeah,
don't have
and to a
Final-
right, and to your point, Dan, that's effectively where I was going. When I say tweak the slides, clean them up, get them ready to go, that would be the real estate working group that would do that. But then we need to get the,
Detailed commentary, I don't think we're gonna have it next time either. We could go ahead and vote in principle on this deck. With the understanding that the real estate working group is going to have to make some little changes. A couple were already mentioned in discussion. And I would feel comfortable with that if that's acceptable to them.
Well, the fact that we meet on the 19th, that's 12 or something days before October 1st.
Mhm.
Have to submit for an October 1st meeting on what's it, Tuesday, like the 20th, so there's still at least a full week after the 19th.
We would post on 27th. We would post on 27th.
27th, so there's 8 days after the 19th to actually get the material onto the select board agenda. So there is time for us to have the working group go through, pick up comments, come back and have the full committee look at it. I mean, yes, we could designate to the working group. This is one where I think the full committee needs to have its fingers on it and be comfortable with it. Because as we go to town meeting, as we go around town or whatever, you're going to be the advocates for this. So I would personally go in the direction of get the comments plus any others that this has triggered that you want to email to the working group, send them to Jerry or whomever.
Yep.
We can incorporate and then we'll get to the final thing here. The other part, Jerry, which we started with, that whether you make it a separate motion or not, having had this conversation, does the senior senate committee want to go to the select board?
Mhm.
Do they think it's important on October 1st before town meeting or after? Is there a feeling about that?
all right, I would, is there any opinion from those here tonight on the committee that would suggest we do not go and present on October 1st to the select board? Anybody here think we should not do that? I think that would be a shorter list of. I don't see any hands. I'm not hearing anybody screaming. So I would entertain a motion that we, after editing these slides as discussed this evening, the real estate working group will do that. We'll bring this back to the full committee. Can that for a minute. I mean, I'm thinking out loud. So we really ought to your point, Jack, we ought to take have a motion right now to just move whatever this is gonna be, to move it, to approve moving a slide presentation to the select board for their October 1st committee meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll talk about the slide presentation in a minute, but a slide presentation.
Yeah.
Could I have a motion to that effect?
Some of,
I
Okay,
think we
could I have a
should say,
second?
we should say the motion, so I can,
Yeah, that make the motion.
is there a motion to burden our real estate working group with finalizing a presentation, having us vote on it, and present it to the select board before October 1st?
Not ordered, of course.
All right, somebody word it the way they want.
Jerry, I think the motion is. The senior senate, the motion is, we will make a slide presentation to the select board on October 1st.
Perfect. Second on that?
Second,
Thank you, Paul. By a roll call, I'm gonna vote on that one right now. Mary?
Yeah.
Paul,
yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes,
Deb,
Yes,
I'm a yes. Dan,
Yes,
Amy,
Yes,
Stephanie.
Yep.
Linda? Even though you're
No
not
vote.
voting.
I'm not a voting.
I know, but I wanted to ask you anyway.
I love the idea. Thank you.
Perfect. And Chris is still not dialed in. So that motion passed unanimously. So we now, of course, I didn't write it down, so I might need someone for clarification. Does that cover it?
I don't know that you
that-
need. I don't know that you need a motion, because basically we've said the working
Yep.
group will continue, we'll bring it back for a vote on the September 19th meeting.
Yep, I think you're right, Jack, it's covered. We covered it with that one. Perfect.
But.
Good wording.
Yeah, but what I'd like the senior senate, you've heard a presentation, some of you are seeing it for the first time. Go back through it, think about it. I mean, Linda's made some really nice comments about. At least have a slide ready with as much specifics as you can relative to the numbers. And potential source of the number, so, that's a specific comment we can work on. If others of you. Set a deadline, you got 7 days, we don't hear from you in 7 days, we assume you have no
Yeah.
comments. Now, if you have additional comments, send them to Jerry or
Yeah,
whomever.
send them to me, because I'm on the real estate working group, so you can send them all just to me. Then that way there, I'll make sure that everybody in the working group has them, and we'll discuss them. Amy, you had your hand up.
yeah, I do have a question. So can you send us this PowerPoint, Jack, so that we can
Yep.
take a real quick look and then make some questions off that too? So if you can send this to us, what we're looking at, I don't think I
Yeah.
got this before the meeting. If you send it off, then I can do a real focused look and get your any questions I find.
Jerry, did you send it to the group?
no,
I
no,
did
No.
not. This is the one time I did not send the presentation out to
No.
the full group.
so the presentation is too large to send by
Right.
email, but the link.
Mhm.
Is valid. Some people may have had trouble using the link.
Mhm.
If that comes to pass, then I can set up some other place where it can be downloaded. Each member will have to download it. Instead
Oh,
of.
Where was the link? Was that embedded in the agenda?
No,
We went to a few people.
no, it
Okay.
was a link that
the
Dan,
working
and-
group.
that
Yeah.
Dan had and the working group had.
Perfect. We
we-
just get the link. That'd be fabulous.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, there's another option. The reason it's such a big file are the 3 photos. I can take the photos out. If Josh was here, he would tell us how to shrink the size of the photos to do it. I don't quite know how to do that, so that's the real issue. Like, we can remove the photos, just put in a photo to be there. Which is the RFI response kinds of things, and it becomes a much smaller file, but either way, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, and also I could PDF it once you have created the final version.
Okay,
Right, if you want to do any updates really quick, send it to me on PDF and.
yeah, and I could PDF
Usually
this.
you could print a PDF.
Yeah, I can.
So we got this figured out. We have a way to get it to everybody, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
Everybody
no,
take some time. This, I mean, of all the things we've had in this, we've worked together now for 7 months. Of all the things we've had, this is probably one of the more important documents that we have to
Definitely.
move forward, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
This is a message that could be delivered ahead of town meeting, so that the select board during town meeting, if a subject comes up addressing the senior center, they have the proper documentation. We don't want them to enter that meeting and say, oh, we haven't seen a presentation, or we don't have updated information.
Yeah.
We're gonna give them all we have.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of the more important presentations that we're asking each of you to take a look at and give your comments. If you have no comments, that's fine. I think we've scrubbed this fairly well as a working group. I feel fairly comfortable with it. I think the working group, generally speaking, feels very comfortable, so. But we'll take any input we can get, any and all.
Okay,
Sure.
good.
Go ahead,
Sure.
Jack.
There's been 2 or 3 fingers going, commenting on how to get it out. Who is going to, convert it to a PDF and make sure it gets out to the group at large?
Dan,
Dan has raised his hand, so I want to make sure that that happens, so that
Yep.
everybody sees the presentation as we discussed it tonight, to use as a basis for further comments.
yep,
And
perfect.
there's the second part to this. This is gonna be, pick a number, 8 or 9 slides. I did add a 9th slide, which you didn't see tonight, that I will send to you. It's the slide that has the senior centers, permanent senior centers take a long time. Forth and so on, so I will send that to you. But the other part of this, which is now disconnected, is the big 44-page report.
Mhm.
So at some point, we need, before town meeting preferably, to synchronize those two so that you haven't got that one in that sequence and this one in that sequence and yada, yada, yada.
Well, again, I hate to burden the real estate working group, but I think that's gonna be us going back and trying to make sure that we've got those two coordinated, then get that to get both of those to the full committee. So that before October 1, we've got them as synchronized as we can get them within reason.
I agree, and I think it's gonna wind up being the 8 or 9 slides here because they're in a particular sequence. Give that back to Josh and ask him to go through the report and synchronize it.
Yeah. Well, Josh did say when he wrote to me saying he had a conflict this evening, he says, just let him know anything that he was assigned. So, Josh is an old Navy guy and he knows you never volunteer for anything. So, and I'm the same background. So guess what, Josh? We just assigned you something. So yes, it's good move, Jack.
But he's not here, so somebody needs to tell him.
Oh, I will, and I'll tell him that Jack mentioned it. Yes. Oh, yeah, I will give you all the credit, Jack. Yeah, for sure. No, I will. I will talk to Josh tomorrow.
I have a question, Jerry,
Go for it.
not quite on subject. Is it too late already to go to the town meeting with anything for the fall?
Yes.
Yes. Yes,
Okay, so we're planning for May,
yes.
unless
But
we
this-
can get petitions to have a special town meeting in February.
we have to get the money for it as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we're trying to do all this. I'd almost say on a shoestring, but we don't even own a shoestring. So, yeah, we're doing this on nothing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good
so we're
idea.
really waiting till the spring, but a key factor here, and I think people outside the realm of what's going on don't realize it. Okay, we wait till the spring. Well, that's nice. But that doesn't necessarily mean that these real estate people are gonna wait till the spring or next summer. Or, you know, if this, the people who own 141 Parker Street, let's assume for a moment somebody comes along and really wants that building and they've got, you know, some good ideas. Hey, you know, business is business.
Yeah.
Much as they'd like to be nice to the town and help. It's business at the end of the day. So we got to be cognizant of the fact that one, the seniors are still in a small facility. It has its issues. We're not going to discuss that. We've already done that. Time is passing. Here we are now in 2024. We're talking about spring of 2025 just to get the ball rolling. Doesn't mean we're going to be in it in spring of 2025. We're just going to be authorized to move it forward. So when we would occupy a building, let's assume for a moment it is 141 Parker. When might we get in there? I don't know. But it's not too quick.
All right, Jerry?
Yeah.
The benefit, potential benefit of, you know, the work in the next 2 weeks, tweaking and tuning and, you know, picking up all the comments. The 141 Parker Street people may provide us with lease information in
Mhm.
that period. I
Yes.
don't know that, they've been asked. And they've indicated a willingness, but I don't know whether that will happen. But to Linda's point, that would, if they do, and we get it in time, then that will give us another cost data point to include in the stuff. So that's an FYI.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, that would be perfect. It would be nice to have, excuse me, the 3 data points. Maynard Crossing, Millwood, Maine, and 141 Parker. It'd be perfect to have those 3 data points because all 3, in many ways, are very different. So it's going to be interesting to see what this new number potentially comes in at. All right, I'm good. Is there anything else we need to cover on this? I mean, my next item on the agenda, or the second bullet under this one, is continued discussion about the path forward. That was it. I mean, this is the continuation of the discussion of the path forward. And, you know, to Dan's point, asking about, can we get to October town meeting? Not really. It's too late now. But other than that, I did not have anything. Is there any new business?
Terry, this is Deb.
Yep.
I'm just thinking about at town meeting, maybe setting up a table, having us set up a table so that we can give out information to the public about what we've been doing and what we need to do for the future. So they're more informed. You know, there are some people I keep hearing that don't know what's actually happening. But I think it's only when things are brought up on social media do they understand that there's some issues that need to be addressed. So I think at town meeting, the people that are there, we can give them the information and then they'll be educated a little bit more.
Valid point. And maybe we can take some of what we just went over tonight, 8, 9 slides. Maybe we can take some salient points out of those and do a 1-pager, just a 1-page handout.
Okay.
So nobody's going off with a lot. They're going off with 1 piece of paper. And hand that out. That at least gives them a general synopsis of where we are and where we're trying to go.
Okay.
I
Well,
agree. Go ahead, Jack.
Jerry, that leads into an item that didn't make it onto the agenda.
Uh-oh.
Josh provided to either everybody, one of the working groups, a flyer layout. Specifically, because he's thinking about mounting or how we would mount a social media campaign. So we ought to look back to that, so we're not reinventing another 1-page thing.
Right, correct. So that was on a 1-page, because Josh and I had talked about that. Because that was what we did. It was bigger than that for the school, but same idea, 1 page. So we can go back to what Josh did put together, and he took pieces out of his 44-page thing and kind of glommed them together. He ended up with a 1-page. So we'll take that. we'll take information that we now have in the 8 or 9 slides, make sure everything is synced, and we'll put together a one pager and get that out to the full committee. Let people see it, see what they think. Any other new business? I don't hear
Not
any.
exactly this business, but Amy, what is it the school committee is gonna do on the 13th at the COA?
They asked, Mary Brandley reached out to me in August. They just wanted to come and speak to the seniors. And I asked if they could come in September when we knew what the warrant would be looking like. And so they did this before. They reached out twice during the campaign to get the vote out for Green Meadow. And they're coming. And I anticipate that we'll have seniors there to have a lively dialogue with them. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure if they're actually liaisons to the seniors because it's not posted on the website that they're official liaisons, but in the past, I got some sort of sense that they may be liaisons to the senior population. Jerry, I don't know. You came before with the Green Meadow to talk to the seniors.
Yes, and I've had nothing to do with the bleachers, so I honestly don't
Yeah.
know what Mary and Natasha are.
Yeah, yeah, so
They're
I-
looking they're looking, well, they understand
Oh,
that the
yeah.
seniors, they're a big block vote. They're looking for that vote. I get it.
Yeah, it's
That's-
gonna be, it'll just be lively, a lively conversation, and then, yes, that's all, Jack. It's nothing formal. There's not an agenda. It'll be lively, though.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
It's posted for 11:30 p.m.
Any other issue? Before I choked to death, any other burning issues here?
Uh,
I
Agenda
would-
item 5,
Public
Oh,
comments?
public. Is there anybody from the public on here?
yes, there's one.
Oh, I see one public person. Has a similar name of somebody else on the committee.
Yeah.
Well, two similar names, actually, a Mary Ann and a Shield, so, yeah. Mary Ann Shields, do
I
you
just
have
want-
any comments? Go for it.
I just want to say that it is absolutely wonderful to hear not only the effective work that it sounds like you have all done. I mean, this presentation, I think the select board is going to be hard for them to dismiss. I think they're going to accept it. To know that we've moved this far relatively quickly, because you've only been working 7 months. I deeply, deeply appreciate the work that you've all put into it and the talent that has been demonstrated by all of the people who are members of this group and the devotion. This is what democracy is about.
Mhm, mhm.
And so I want to thank you. And while I can't speak for the board without their approval, I suspect that they would allow me to say how deeply appreciative we are of what you have done and how much faith we have in what you are going to continue to be able to do on behalf of the seniors.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, and I like I say for myself, it's been my pleasure, I know that in doing this, getting it this far. And hopefully we can get it, that last 10 yards and score a goal. That's the intent. Thank you very much, Mary Ann. Are there any other members of the public on here that I am not observing? If there are not,
I'll make
I
a motion to adjourn at 8:19.
perfect. There's a second?
Second?
Perfect. By a roll call for adjournment. Mary,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Jack,
Yep.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Deb.
Yes,
I'm a-
please.
Okay, and I'm a yes. Josh is not here. Dan,
Yes.
thank you. Amy,
Yes,
Stephanie,
Yes, sir.
and Linda, you're not a voting member, but I know you'd probably like to say yes, right?
Could be.
The next meeting is 2 weeks from now as a fully Zoom meeting.
It's a Zoom meeting only. Yep,
Yep.
On the
19.
19th.
19. Perfect. Thank you very much, folks. Greatly
Thank you.
appreciate your help.